I'm just going to come up with some key points, some highlights, but I'm not going to cover the whole chapter. You are expected to read the chapter, bring your questions so I'm going to share my screen to talk about this. So you're going to bring your questions to the question forum, and then we're going to be discussing about these things. And if we need to create a short video, I can do that for you guys and creating a short video uh, responding to your questions and concerns. Of course, as we go forward and the chapters are getting a little heavier, then we can talk more about the other ones. So talking about variables, Python doesn't have, so a lot of things in Python is not the same as the C++. So C++ and Java are very close to each other, but Python is different. So there's going to be some areas that we have to pay attention and do it a little differently. So for Python to declare a variable, actually you don't mention the so if you look at it in here, so if I give my, so if you would be in C++, you would define a data type like double, integer, or something like that. The way that Python does it, it takes the right side, it evaluates what data type is it, and is going to change this variable to that data type. Saying that, in Python, you can change your data type as you go through the program. And this is going to be strange for people coming from C++ or Java. So I can declare a variable here as an integer. Later on, I can change it to the same variable to a string, or I can change it to double, or I can change it to something else. It is not recommended to do it like that, but if we have to, we're going to do it. So that's where we are with the variables. And that's basically what most of this chapter is going to be about. Again, this is not something that I think is going to be too hard for you guys coming in. So if I put it as a number with no decimal point, it's going to be defined as an integer. If I have it as with a decimal point, it's going to be float. And if I define it as a string, it's going to be string based. And what you're going to see here is a sharp sign or pound sign that is going to be for the comments. So we're going to talk about the comments pretty soon, how we're going to put the comments in Python, but that's what we're going to do for now. I am not going to go through the detail of these things again. So I'm hoping that you're going to be reading. And this is something that I want you to practice on it. So you're going to get your IDE. Hopefully you have your IDE all set up. And then we're going to do as an activity, you're going to just basically type this in and make it work. And then we can talk about if you have any issues or not. Let me move this out of my way. It's just holding it right there. So we have, remember, we talk about the functions later on. So our functions can be potentially a little programs. So if I want to print something, the print itself is going to, so Python is a very friendly language, so it tries to make some adjustment or put things in there for you to be comfortable with. So if you look at the print over here, it's going to print this number. And if I put an addition to it, it's going to take that number and it's going to add 5 to it. The print itself is going to print as a string. So what is it doing is going to take the number, it's going to change it to a string, and it's going to print it over there. So here, when we are talking about tax rate plus question mark, it's going to take this tax rate, it's going to change it to a string, and it's going to add it to here. So the plus sign it's going to concatenate two strings. It's not much over here. Naming variables, I'll let you guys read that for the underscore. We're going to reserve that for our classes, so do not use underscore for now. Basically, lowercase, uppercase character to start with, and let's not use any special symbols. We're going to be using camel case in this book. Camel case starts with lowercase to start with, and every other word is going to be uppercase. So easy to read. So this book is very good about talking about descriptive variables, and I am coming in from the math area that I don't like to type, and I wanted to always put abbreviation X, Y, Z, A, B, C, but that is not going to be acceptable. We want to have some kind of a name that's going to be understandable and we can read it. So there are certain things in Python that we are going to agree to do it, but the language cannot, it's not that they don't want it, they cannot enforce it. So when we are going to be, I'm pretty sure you know about the constant, that the constant is in C++, we define a constant because we want to be sure that nobody can change this. Another reason that we're defining constant is because we want our numbers to be readable throughout our program. So if I have a 2 somewhere versus a bottle of a volume, it's going to be much easier to understand what is 2. And especially if you have a long program and you have lots of numbers in there, you wouldn't know what the 2 is. And also, if you decide that you want to change this value to something else, then you have to go through the whole program, look for a number 2, figure out if that number 2 is what I'm looking for or not, and then change it. And it's going to get very, very messy. So your book author and I are encouraging you to use a constant as much as possible. We call them a magic number, meaning that if I see this number in the middle of your program, I don't have no idea what it is. So we're going to define it as a constant. But the caveat on this one is Python cannot enforce the constant, meaning that if somebody takes this one and in the middle of the program changes to something else, I cannot enforce it. So this is the first, and we're going to talk about this more and more, that if I put something in all caps, I'm asking you as a programmer coming into this program later on, please do not change it. So I have to rely on the future programmers not to change it. It's not much I can do. It's not going to enforce it. So we're going to be talking about the comments. So we have 2 types of comments in Python, and I want to see you guys do a lot of those in the programs. One, you call it sharp, pound sign, whatever you want to call it. There is going to be a 2 or 1, and the 2 is going to be used later on to create the documentation of your code. So you can see that there are some areas that your book is going to be using 2 right now, and we're going to talk more about it. And we want to write more comments. So wherever this sign is, you want to call it sharp sign, pound sign. From that point to the end of the line, it's not going to read. So whatever you want to put it, it's not going to read. The compiler is not going to read. So we want to encourage you to put more of these things throughout your program to make your program more readable. I'm not expecting you to put too much in there, but put some there. We can understand your code. So if you have things that's not defined, remember, if I don't put any value in my variable, then my variable is not declared or it's not defined. So you're going to get some kind of an error for that. Arithmetic is just like C++ and Java. I'm not going to go through that, the basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And of course, the order of operation that comes from the math, just like the other ones. So if you mix them up, it's going to promote it, just like C++. So if I have integer plus the double, it's going to, we call it floating point over here. It's going to promote it to this. We do have a power in here that some of you guys wish that you had it in C++. So power is available in Python. It's the 2-star for power. Floor division. So we had in C++ that if you divide an integer by integer, you will get an integer. And if you mix them up, you're going to have it as floor division. So if you mix it up, it would promote it. So if I put 7 divided by 4, Python is going to give you 1.75. But if I use 2 of them, then I don't get 1.75. I'm just going to get 1. I'm not going to get any decimal. And that is going to bring us the remainder. That would be my modulus or remainder. That is going to be just like your C++. So we have some functions available that we can call, just like print is a function. We can call those functions coming in from the library. And we have some math functions that they can come in and we can call them up. So we have, when you download your Python, you will get some library with it. And we have some standard library that's already there. And then we have some other ones that we can add to it. So to be able to do that, we are going to be using something like this. So we are going to the library, to the directory of library. We are going to pick up the module called math. Inside of the module math, we're going to import the square root. So the square root belongs to the module of math. We can potentially bring the whole math in here, but your author of this book wants to use it as specific as possible. And we're going to practice on how we can bring everything into math. Remember, when you are calling on the library, you're physically bringing the code and you put it right here. So all the code is going to be right on top of your program. So if you bring everything from the math, all the code is going to be right here. You're not going to see it, but it's going to be physically there. So your program is going to be much bigger than it needs to be. So that's not efficient. So we have these built-in functions that we can use, and these are some of the functions available. Again, I'm not going to go through those things. You can take a look at it, and we can talk more about it. We can call some function to do the conversion. So if I have something that is floating point or float, we can force it to be integer if that's what we want to do, and then it's going to lose the decimal. So I think you guys are going to be talking about these things in your Math 10. I hope you have that in there. So in numbering system, we have some holes. So in a regular numbering system, if you take number 10 divided by 3, you're going to get 3.33333. And if you multiply that by 3, you're never going to get the 10 back. And the same thing happens in Python, not the Python, computer system, that when you have a binary, you're going to have some calculation that's not going to end up to what you expect it to do. So we got to figure out this round of error. We're going to put that in some kind of discussion that we're going to be talking about. Unbalanced parentheses, I'm not going to talk about that. You should know that. So we talked about importing a square root from the library, or we can just call it like this. So if we don't have, so let's talk about this and the common way of doing it. So if I just say from math import these things, this is a more efficient way. So we're going to go, of course, to PowerPoint, make it as a capital F, it should be lowercase f. We're going to go and pick up whatever we need to use for today. So if I am going to cook ever, I'm not going to go to the refrigerator and bring everything and put it on the counter and say, okay, I'm going to bring everything, I'm going to start cooking and then I'm going to use it. So I'm just going to bring the things that I need. So if I'm that kind of person that I want to bring everything and put it on the counter, this is the way to do it. So I am going to put a star over here. That's going to bring everything available in that module. Now, there is another way of doing it. So if I just say import math, it's going to bring the functions. But if you use that one, then you have to use the dot operator to call your functions. So you have three ways of doing it. You have it this way, that is the most popular way for us to use it. You have this one to bring everything to your program, not efficient for lazy programmers. And you have it this way, which can work for some areas, but then you got to be careful that you got to be, if you use the last one, you have to be sure that you're using a dot. So if you use the last one and you don't put math dot, it doesn't know what the square root is. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here, and then we talk more about this in another video. Okay. So read it, read the book, go over these things, and let me know what questions you may have, and then we talk more about it in our class.